Welcome back to the Practice Pulse, where we break down how businesses actually grow, the systems, the operations, and the decisions that turn potential into real scalable results. Today's conversation is going to be a great one because we're diving into a business that has built real traction in a highly competitive space: fitness, nutrition, and performance coaching. I'm joined by Nick Shaw, co-founder of RP Strength, a company that has helped thousands of people improve their performance through structured training and diet systems. And it has successfully scaled that into a digital platform and coaching ecosystem. Nick, I'm really excited to have you on. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Awesome. Today is really about unpacking how you've built this, what's worked, what hasn't, and what other founders can learn about it. Nick, I'd love if you could start off with your background. What led you to this space, and how did RP Strength really come together?
Yeah, so I've always been into sports and kind of as a byproduct of that into fitness because playing sports in high school, obviously want to lift weights just because you can hopefully perform better, be more athletic, all that good stuff. So I was really drawn into fitness from an early age, probably like, no, I don't know, about the time I was a teenager or so, first started lifting weights. I had an older brother, 4 years older than me, also kind of helped get me into it, but was always really, really interested in fitness and sports and all that. So I ended up going to school at the University of Michigan. I'm from Michigan and pursued like a sport management degree. And I kind of thought like, well, hey, what would I really like to do? Well, I really love sports. And so I figured maybe there's like a business side to sports. And so I originally thought that I would hopefully be an athletic director, which I thought, hey, that'd be pretty cool. And then about my junior year, I got connected with a fellow that I met at the Michigan Weight Room, who is Dr. Mike. If you've ever seen the RP Strength Renaissance Periodization YouTube channel, he's kind of the face of the YouTube channel. And him and I got to training, competing together. Man, that was 2007. So legitimately almost 20 years ago when I first met him. And after I graduated, I moved out to New York City, where he also moved out to New York City. He was a couple years ahead of me in school. So he had just finished his master's degree and we started personal training. So again, it just was like this love of fitness. And that's kind of like, I would say where things really got started because we were working together, living together. And we noticed a lot of, I guess, ways that people were clients. And we thought, oh boy, that's really interesting how folks do things. And we thought we had a pretty good approach to it. And so we kind of kept referring people back and forth because after about a year, Mike left to go get his PhD. And so he was coaching people online. I was still in New York training. We were referring people back and forth all the time. And, one day we were just like, hey, why don't we just join forces and just start a little business? And again, I didn't know anything about it then. This was, I don't know, probably like 2011, something like that, maybe 10. I don't know. It's so far, so long ago, it's hard to keep track of the exact dates. So we technically joined forces, and that was really legitimately the true start of RP way back then.
Wow, that's awesome. So, when you first started, what kind of gap did you see in the fitness or nutrition space that you were trying to fill? Where did you,
Yeah.
what was the problem that you were like, we can do this better?
Yep. The problem was, again, goes back to, we'd see people doing things that we thought were really, really interesting. And I'm using air quotes here. It's like, oh, that's a really interesting way to do things. So there wasn't, at the time, right? This is, let's just say like 15 years ago, roughly. There wasn't a lot of like evidence based information in the fitness space specifically, especially in kind of like the bodybuilding world. It's just one of those things where it's like, hey, so and so does it this way. That's how you should do it. And we're like, that's really interesting. Like maybe there's a little bit better way. And so our approach was really to combine the practical application of like, you want to look like you lift, you've got to have that part. And then also the evidence base, because if you can combine both, it's really hard to argue with. So you can imagine if you're someone that's maybe really, really book smart, but you weigh like 140 pounds, like really muscular people aren't going to take you that seriously. But if you look like you compete, you actually compete yourself, you gain a lot of knowledge just from the practical component of doing these things yourself. And then on the flip side, if you are someone who really, really looks the part, but if someone were to ask you how or why you do things, you don't really have any coherent or logical explanations, it raises some eyebrows. But if you have both, and so that was really what we wanted to do. So Mike had a PhD. We were also really competitive lifters ourselves. And so we wanted to sort of combine the two together. And that was really why, we first came into business to help sort of alleviate that kind of mismatch out there was.
Huh, that's awesome. So really diving into not just looking the part, but knowing the science behind it. I love that.
Walk the walk and talk the talk for sure.
Yeah. So when you look at your customers today, what are they really struggling with the most right now?
Yeah. So with the rise of our YouTube channel the last few years, I would say that our sort of demographic and avatars has shifted a little bit to probably a little bit more male oriented and folks that really want to get leaner and get more muscular. So they really want to just improve their body composition, sort of get that more like aesthetic look. And if you've never really been in the gym before, or even if you've been in the gym for a while, there's like a lot of information out there. So you're really unsure of like, well, what do I do? Picture you walk into the gym and you're just like kind of confused or maybe even embarrassed because you don't really know what to do. So you're a little timid, you're not really confident. And so what we help accomplish is we basically give people a plan. It's like, you don't really have to think anymore. You just go in and execute the plan and you will start seeing results. And it's almost like, have you ever seen, you obviously familiar with the Spider-Man. I'm going to probably date myself here a little bit, but like the original one that was probably on like VHS with, what is it,
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire?
Huh. Oh, yeah.
And, he's kinda like the nerdy looking guy in high
Hmm.
school and all that, and then he gets, bit by the spider, and so the analogy would be there that, like, that spider bite is kind of inserting the RP principles and the RP hypertrophy app in there. You go from, like, kind of nerdy looking guy to that, and to now you're like, "Oh, now you're Spider-Man." Now you just walk around with confidence and all that. You're sort of like the person that people look up to in the gym, and so when that resonates with, probably a little bit more male demographic, maybe even a little bit younger, you just kind of, I don't, lack of better terms, kind of trying to maybe prove yourself in the gym a little bit. Always kind of that element of it. But I'd say that's probably a pretty good overview of like what our folks are trying to solve. They're just, they want to get the results. They're just kind of a little unsure how to do it because there's so much misinformation and just information in general out there in sort of the greater social media realm that exists.
Right. So just giving them a tailored plan that's really going to help them have the confidence that they need going in and using these different machines and having these different routines so they know that they're doing it correctly and they know what to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of times you'll hear questions like, well, what exercises should I do? Well, how much weight should I use? How many reps should I do? How many sets should I do? And what order should I do all these things? We don't have to worry about that anymore. You just follow the plan. And assuming you follow it, like you're going to get very good results.
Okay. Awesome. Very cool. So let's talk a little bit about your model. So walk me through how someone experiences RP strength from the moment they discover you to actually getting results inside of your system.
Yeah, there's probably a really good chance. I'm speaking in broad strokes here, of course, but
Hmm.
there's a really good chance you're going to see something on social media. Could be YouTube, could be Instagram, maybe could even be some paid ads, but you're probably going to see something like that. And my colleague, who is the face of RP, he would always make jokes here about his own personal appearance. I won't make those. I love the guy. You're probably going to see something like that. And it's probably going to be an entertaining clip. It's also probably going to be an educational clip. And so it's going to sort of draw you in. And so, like, it's not uncommon to hear people go, oh, you know what? I saw a clip of Mike. I started watching. Guess what? I fell down the rabbit hole. I watched like 5, 10, 15 videos in a row. Like, I can't get enough of it because you start learning. And we're all about just giving away information for free. And so typically that's sort of a reciprocity where you just give people a lot of
Uh-huh.
value, a lot of stuff for free. Typically they're going to, especially after a while, they'll be like, you know what? Wow, like these guys really are giving away a lot of free for free. Like I would love to sort of help them out or support them in some way. So they start clicking around. Of course, in all of our videos and social media and all that, you can find our website, rpstrength.com. And then you can find out more about our apps because we actually have a diet coach app and we have a hypertrophy app. So we have both bases covered. So whether you want nutrition or training, we got you covered there. And so that's usually how people, maybe they'll sign up for like a free lead magnet. Like we give away plenty of free guides. These are PDFs anywhere from like 30 to 50 pages. So like pretty comprehensive. It's
Right.
not just a little like, 3 to 5 page thing. It's really in depth. And, that's usually how people kind of enter the RP ecosystem in general. And then eventually hop on the apps and start using them and get really great results. It really just takes all the guesswork out of the plan and the program for you. You just execute.
Awesome. So once they're in the program, what walk me through kind of are they receiving stuff via the app? Are they receiving emails? What are they receiving?
Yeah, both. We definitely will get some emails and all that. But sort of once you get started in the apps, it'll ask you a series of questions and it'll help you find the right plan for you. And a lot of times I think people have this, I guess, sense or view that they almost think of like Peloton. You just like, oh, these are like guided live workouts or something. No, no, that's not actually what we do. It's
Okay.
really more of like, hey, you're going to walk in, and I'm just using some examples here, just making it up. But it's like, all right, cool. Well, we're going to start with flat bench press. And, you get to sort of select the weight in week one because the app's going to have a hard time right at the beginning picking that out for you. And then it's going to give you some targets of like, hey, you should probably hit this. And usually that means like you're just stuck on a couple reps short of failure. And then you log everything. And then once you kind of get through the first workout or the first week, it really starts to pick up on like how strong you are and all that stuff. And you have feedback. So basically every time you do an exercise or like a muscle group, it asks you for specific feedback. And then it uses that feedback to help tailor things for maybe later in the week and or the next week. So it's like really once you get through that first week, everything is really tailor made to you. So then it just starts programming everything for you. Just go in and you just kind of log everything. So, like, all right, we did, I don't know, 100 for 10 reps this week. So next week, you're going to do maybe a little bit more. Maybe that's another rep. Maybe it's a little bit more weight, something like that. But again, everything becomes pre-programmed for you. And so it just takes all the guesswork out of it. You just go in, do the plan, get really great results.
Awesome. That sounds like a great system. Tell me a little bit, like, what do you feel like you've gotten right that maybe a lot of other groups, coaching programs, or apps are missing?
One, I think it goes back to the foundation of being able to walk the walk and talk the talk. You got to have that. It gets you the credibility out there. So we don't really deal with credibility issues anymore. We haven't for over a decade. Our results are undeniable. We've helped so many people. I mean, because I think you started the show off saying thousands. I was like, that's probably actually even hundreds of thousands. If you go by just the number of probably impressions or views that the YouTube channel's got, it's actually in the billions. And so it's pretty cool to kind of think about that. Say I've walked around various places with Dr. Mike and he literally can't go anywhere without being stopped, even in like his local grocery store. Part of that is because he's a pretty unique looking guy. He's 5'6". He's pretty big and like bald head and pretty
Yeah.
big head as well. So he definitely stands out. And again, listen, he would say that himself. But that's that's a big part of it. So it's really cool to help a lot of people. And so like you kind of have that reciprocity where you give people a lot of value. And inevitably, because again, I think about various things that I've watched and supported over the years. Like the thing that first got me into jujitsu a number of years ago was listening to like the Jocko podcast. And of course I ended up buying some stuff from him because I'm like, yeah, this is great. Like I love these podcasts. I love military history, all that stuff. I'm like, hey, how can I give back and support? So I feel like those are a couple things that we've gotten right. Our app, or especially the hypertrophy app, is just really easy to use. So like a lot of people are like, oh, the UI UX is just really simple, easy, basic, and it doesn't really require a lot of a thought process. I I think that the next logical question, and please don't let me get too far ahead of myself.
Oh, you're good.
The things that we got right is maybe some things that we got wrong along the way. And, of course, there's a huge long list of that as well. But the reason that our hypertrophy app is so simple and easy to use now is because we learned so much through our diet app, which launched like 5 years before, 4.5, something like that.
Okay.
And it was difficult to use and navigate and stuff like that. And so like one of the biggest learning lessons that we had from that, and of course we're always updating that and trying to make it better, but it was just like, oh, well, now we kind of know what people want. Cool. Now let's build this new thing with all this knowledge. And then of course, that becomes better because you've learned so much over the years from that. So a couple things we got right, and one big thing that we're still working on.
No, I think that's great. I think the UX is so important when it comes to apps and really having that retention with people actually using it. And to your point, also extremely important that you're listening to your customers that you do have engaged so that you're able to shift and pivot to what they actually want. So it sounds like you did a great job with that. Where have you had to adapt your approach as you've scaled from coaching into a more digital platform?
Yeah. So you have to, it's really hard when you start to scale because if you're working with someone in a one on one setting, things can be very personalized, very tailored. You have lots of communication with them. And as you start to scale, that inevitably has to go down just because, well, it's kind of impossible to, one person to coach, 100,000 people.
Mhm.
So you have to be okay with a little bit of trade-offs. And so that's where the apps come in. And like the apps will walk you through a series of questions to kind of best replicate what an in-person coach could do. AI is great and all that stuff. So it's always getting better. But sometimes you can't really like fully model the if you know you're giving input to an AI versus a human, like they kind of haven't gone through some of the same battles as you, or like maybe they don't have that sense of empathy, although I'm sure like in the not too distant future, it's going to be very, very good about all that. You won't really know, but those are just maybe a couple of the challenges there as you start to scale. It's kind of to help alleviate that. We built a pretty big community where once you enter the app ecosystem, you can join. Like we've got this huge Facebook group with over 100,000 people in it. You can always go in there and ask questions and get tips and support from other people. That's other members, sometimes some of our own moderators, etc. And again, that's just to kind of if you start something and you want to get good results, you want to be around like-minded people. Not everyone has, a close-knit, sort of support group around them. So that's our way to kind of model that online. And that's a pretty common thing nowadays. That's because we can't one human work with so many people that are on our apps. It's a way to kind of scale that to some degree where you can ask questions. And generally speaking, if someone has the question, almost inevitably there's going to be lots and lots of other people that have the exact same question. So it kind of helps you scale some of that problem solving in the online setting.
That's awesome. That's a great solution. It definitely helps when you have a community of individuals that can not only weigh in some, but also see what the response is to other people. To your point, when several people are going to have the same question. So let's shift and talk a little bit about growth and systems and operations. So, what does growth actually look like behind the scenes for you today?
So we're pretty reliant on social media, and that's obviously good and bad. And back during like when COVID first hit, we had a paywall where we had some like gated information and videos and whatnot. And so COVID hit, we said, you know what? Let's just make all this free. Let's just put it out there. There's gonna be a lot of people at home, a lot of people probably leaning into fitness. So like, you know what? Let's just get rid of this. Let's just put it all out there. And so we started to make a commitment into YouTube. And it took a couple of years, but I would say right around 2023 is when it really started to take off, which coincided with the launch of the RP app, Richby app. And so we saw this kind of like meteoric rise where we went from a channel of a couple 100,000 people to like within a couple years into the several million range. And so it just the number of sort of impressions and eyeballs you can get is amazing. And it was unprecedented, led to sort of huge growth within RP,
Hmm.
which is all great. But just like the way social media works is, you don't really have a lot of control over the algorithms and stuff like that. You can always do your best to keep up with them and change content and change strategies around all that. But it does kind of leave you, what is it? It's kind of like the analogy where social media is a little bit like the weather. Like you can't really control when it rains, so to speak. It just, some days it rains, some days it doesn't. And
Hmm.
you are kind of sometimes left out there holding the bucket with no rain coming in. And so like that's led to challenges of, so social media is great. It gets lots of eyeballs, which kind of makes paid ads a little bit easier because then you can supplement it because people have kind of already seen some of your stuff. So it's easier to go and retarget. If social media trends and dips and ebbs and flows like that, well, sometimes if it dips, it can put more stress on you having to go acquire customers, which costs more. So you have to lean into that more. So it's kind of just one of these things. I would say that's kind of the biggest challenge around scaling growth is just how do you kind of reliably do that? Because this just becomes very tricky when you are heavily reliant on social media. And not only as algorithms change, sometimes you have to change your own strategy and the way that you do content. And so again, I don't necessarily like it or even well, I definitely don't like it, but you kind of almost just have to become like in just today's TikToky, really almost clickbaity, all that stuff. You kind of have to lean into that a little bit, which I don't want. I get it. You got to kind of play the game a little bit, but it almost goes against our ethos a little bit because you just want to provide good information to people. So it's tricky. No great answers there, but sometimes you just got to play the game. And
Hmm. Yeah, it's hard to find that balance of, okay, what's a good hook to start with, but also staying true to the content and being authentic in the space.
sure, and you do have
I
to
get
kind
that.
of lean into those hooks a little bit for
Yeah,
sure. Which can then, things are always taken out of context and all that. And then people say, oh, well, you said this and this. It's like, no, that's just the title of the video. But if you actually watch the video, it goes into all the nuances and all like, oh, well, here's why X, Y, and Z is good. But then, A, B, and C isn't so good. So that's kind of some of the balance.
right. Yeah. So, what systems or processes have been the most critical as you've scaled the business?
So I can kind of go back in time a little bit. I remember when we first started selling digital products, everything had to be sent manually. And
Mm,
then the idea, this was like in 2015, so like literally over a decade ago, someone told me about the idea of like email automation and all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. I no longer have to do all this stuff manually. And so we started to do a little bit of that. And then so like the actual delivery of our digital products started to become automated. And that was like the first time we ever saw that true like hockey stick occur.
Hmm.
Because then once that was automated, well, my time became a lot more freed up to do other things like, social media and content, et cetera, to work on working on the business, right? Not in the business is kind of the proverbial thing there. And
Right.
that's absolutely true. So like that was the early one that really stood out to me. Yeah, the systems, man, just systems around how we produce content. Like we are always producing content, whether that's social media, whether that's on our website, all that. Like we have systems in place for all of that. Try to supplement with AI as much as you can. But yeah, it's a very real thing. Like you can never sort of stop producing content once you become a content generator. It just never ends.
You're hooked.
You are hooked
You're
for.
looped in. Yeah, I get that. Okay, so as you started to grow, what started to break, or what did you have to rebuild or rethink, to shift, to pivot?
Yeah, so the email automation stand out is kind of the easiest one. I actually remember it was not too long ago I was telling this story, but the first time, I think, again, this is like 2015, but it was Black Friday. And so, my family's in town. I'm kind of in charge of all the back end stuff. And listen, I don't know very much about back end of websites and all that, but we were apparently on some like shared server or something like that, which comes with limitations on like how much you can do. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about servers and all that. And I just remember because it was Black Friday, we were running a sale, selling our digital products. And, whatever, my kids are probably taking a nap or something like that. My kids were pretty young at the time. So I go to check on all the orders and see how things are going. I see lots of orders coming in. So I'm excited. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is so cool. This is awesome. And then I go to check some of like the updates and the statuses and everything. And well, nothing was working. Nothing was sending. And I was like, huh, well, this is not great. Basically, long story short, we had surpassed the capacity of our shared server system. So I have to like try to frantically, call our website people and be like, hey, like what's going on? So in the meantime, good old Nick was back to the old manual sending us stuff. And that's not,
Yeah.
it's fine when there's, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 orders, but when there's, 500 or 1,000 orders, that's not so great.
No.
That's a very easy example of something breaking. Nowadays, we've got, a very good software engineering team and all that stuff. So our systems are greatly improved. You don't have to worry about that. You have like auto scaling and all that stuff on servers, AWS, etc. I don't know too much about that, but so we kind of got all that covered. I don't know. That's just like the first example that stands out to me because I was very, very painful.
Yes, those situations are terrifying. I've been in similar ones in previous businesses. So, okay, so for founders that are out there building in this in a similar space, what's something that they tend to underestimate about scaling a coaching or subscription based business?
I think that there's this, especially when you're pretty small, there's this delicate balance of like when you start to hire people and like when you bring in experts. Because again, maybe you don't even have to hire someone. Maybe it's just like coming in as a third party consultant. Do not be afraid to put your hand up and be like, I don't know how to do this. I need to go work with someone that is,
Mhm.
basically an expert in this field. And I think slash hope I was decent at that early on because I'm like, I just don't know some of this stuff. Right. Like I remember hearing about the email automation. I never kind of hammering the email automation. It's just stand out top of mind. And I was like, that sounds really cool. I don't know anything about it. So I remember calling the place that did it. And then they're trying to give me the pricing options. And of course, they start with the low tier options. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't think you understand. I'm not worried about price really. Tell me how much it will cost for you to do this for me. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we have this package. You can like fly out to where our headquarters and like, we'll kind of do it for you. And I'm like, cool, sign me up. When's the earliest I can get out there? Like, I'm all about it. So I think that it becomes a trade off of, just being able to outsource. And if you can outsource it, it's usually better because people know what they're doing. And then you don't have to go through the struggle of trying to do it yourself.
Mhm. No, that's such a key point. You really have to be able to step into, I need help. I need someone who knows what they're doing, and it's time to pay for that. And finding that balance is a lot of times what's going to make or break either a company or its founders.
Because the price point, I think, can send people into sticker shock at first.
Mhm.
Like, no, 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 no. Let's do the thought process where you try to figure it out yourself. And it's going to take you, 5 times longer, and you're probably going to lose your sanity and, all this stuff. And you're like, well, actually, yeah, that like 5,000 or $10,000 thing doesn't sound so bad. I'm just going to pay to do it. yeah, whatever. Profits might be a tad lower, but it's going to help set the foundation to kind of get to that next level a little bit.
Yeah, and when you're looking at the price, you also have to consider the expert that's doing it has a team of people that they've been training for a long time, and they have purchased all of these tools and all of this education, and they have all this experience that goes into that price point. And I think sometimes people lose sight of that and think, "Well, I could just do that myself." And there's a lot there's a lot that goes into it on the back end of things.
For sure. That actually goes back to to the fitness and what we do. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. You can watch all of our fitness content and you can figure it out and do it yourself. Totally. Like that's awesome. Lots of people have when they'll message us and be like, hey, I lost 50 to 100 pounds and got into really great shape and they've never paid us a cent. Except for whatever, I guess YouTube watch hours gives us a little bit, right?
right.
But not that much. And it's like, great, cool. Well, not everyone can do that, right? Lots of people have real jobs, have kids, have families, and all that. No, sometimes they just don't want to do it. There's plenty of things
Yeah,
that I don't want to spend time on. Like I could probably learn how to do all my lawn and do all this stuff and learn how irrigation system works and blah 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 blah. Blah. I don't care to do that. Like I'd rather pay someone to come out and do it all for me. So it can apply across all sort of different sectors and all that good stuff.
yeah. So true. Yeah, definitely. There's definitely. It's like it's worth it to just be able to open an app and say, "Okay, this is the workout I'm doing today."
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just like that's worth paying for. Um,
Yeah, if you're like a CEO or something like that, or you're a busy professional,
yeah.
listen, your mental bandwidth is spent doing everything else. Like when you walk into the gym, you're just like, I don't want to think. I just want to kind of go and do. And you're like, cool, pull up the app. It's going to tell you exactly what to do. Boom, 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 boom. You just log it. Hey, and an hour later, you're done. You've got a great workout, and you're on the way to really good results.
Yep. 100%. Decision fatigue is a real thing with CEOs, founders, business owners, or professionals. So it helps to have those decisions taken out of the equation, so you don't have to think about it. What's something that you believed early on in building the business that you no longer believe?
Again, that I could do everything better than other people, or that I kind of like cared more than everyone else. Which again, the latter part might be true, although I would argue not even so much when you kind of get other people in, and especially if they have like a share in the upside, they tend to care quite a bit. But I remember thinking that I ran our Instagram for the longest time up until probably like 2020, 2021, something like that. And, did a pretty good job, got it up into probably the 600K follower range. And, and then, yeah, someone came in and took it over. And then like a week or two go by and I'm like, oh my gosh, the content is so much better than what I used to do. Cause I'm not that creative of a person. So you get people that are really creative, know what they're doing. It's like, holy cow, again, like you should outsource stuff because let the experts do what the experts do because you think that you can do a good job and you probably can. You can't, like, you just can't be an expert in everything. You kind of just have to pick the one or two things you want to try to be an expert in. And then some of the other stuff, you'll get some other people that are really good at it. And it usually works out for the better.
Yeah. So what's keeping with the line of lessons that you've maybe learned? What's a mistake that ended up shaping how you operate today?
I think an important one would be around sort of transparency and communication. Um, because we're a completely remote company. And so I think sometimes we have to remember that you can't just go walk down to the next cubicle and, chat with someone. Like it's one of those things where if there's sort of silence or communication goes a while between certain people, it's easy to let your own voice or narrative fill the gap. It's like, oh, well, so and so must be true, or oh well, hey, I haven't heard from this person in a while, and you don't really know why, and so you can start to build that own narrative, and again, you start to see patterns after a while, and you're just like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Cool, let's fix it. So kind of big on the culture thing, and just making sure, even if it's like we have had like a weekly marketing call and again, like half of the call is just kind of joking around and that stuff. But again, it just gets people together. You can see all of your colleagues. And sometimes you'll hear something that someone says and you're like, oh, hey, you know what? I can actually help with that. Whereas that person might not have known to even reach out to this person. Just having people communicate a little bit more often, a little bit more frequent generally leads to better results from my experience.
Awesome. Great advice. Okay, so as you look ahead, what changes do you think founders in the fitness, coaching, and performance space need to be preparing for right now?
This is probably you're gonna love this answer, but how do you best incorporate AI into it? So I think you got to be careful. And so here's my take on kind of like fitness and AI. So I think you got to be real careful. I think people will always want that like human to human connection. Hey, I'm working with a coach. I'm talking to a human. They've been through the struggles before. They get it. They have the empathy. They have all this. And so I think where like AI can really help is you automate the kind of the little like repetitive tasks that don't really require like the human element. And I'm just making up some examples here. There's probably 100 different examples, but the sending of your forms and questionnaires or like, just little things like that.
Hmm.
Save yourself that time so your real time and effort can come into actually talking to your clients and customers. Maybe it's Zoom calls, maybe it's whatever. I don't know, you get on the phone with them, whatever that is, but you spend more of your time doing that and developing and creating those connections, those deeper relationships, and you automate all the easy stuff. So all, most, the vast majority of your bandwidth goes towards that relationship part, which again, I think is something that's always going to be wanted in the human sort of connection space. But yeah, some of that little easy stuff, awesome. Let AI do it because it's amazing at it.
You're 100% right. I do love that answer because that's like the philosophy of my company. Let's take out the pajama work where you're just sitting at home behind a computer and put you back in front of people and your clients or your patients so that you're really able to engage at the human level. So using AI rather than to remove the human element, but to
Yeah.
enhance it instead, I think
And, and,
is super important.
and a lot of people are kind of, skeptical of talking to like an AI bot. And so it's like, I don't think you maybe want to lean into that, but it's like, yeah, eliminate all that easy, repetitive stuff that doesn't really require you so that you can do more of that calling up, hey, Sally, hey, Joe, hey, Bob, whatever, whatever, man. Cause if you do that, I think you really stand out even more as a coach. And it's just, chances are those people are going to stick around longer because they know that you really care about them, that you really want to see them succeed. And then
Hmm.
makes your life easier too, because you guess again, I'm going to guess if you're a coach, that's you like doing that. You like talking and communicating and helping people. So do more of that. That's the fun stuff. I mean, I used to coach people. I don't so much anymore, but that's fun. That's the really cool. It's not so fun, sending all the emails and blah, 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 that stuff. That's whatever. Let AI do that.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Well, we're going to move into a quick lightning round before we close out. So these are fast questions, fast answers. So just off of the top of your head, just just a few. Are you ready? Get hyped. All right.
Hopefully. I love lightning rounds. By the way. Yeah, yeah, let's go.
Okay. This one's easy. So, okay. What's one industry myth that you would like to eliminate forever?
The idea that, carbs are inherently bad, especially with what we do in performance and sport nutrition, it's just like that just couldn't be further from the truth. I think it's maybe gotten a little bit better, but sorry, I'm getting away from the lightning round.
No,
So I'll
you're
say,
fine. You can go deeper. That's fine. Okay. So, what's one habit that keeps you steady when things get intense?
hitting a daily step count. I think it's really, really important. Usually, I can just walking around your house. If you're going to field a call in the afternoon, listen, I love Zoom. If generally speaking, if I'm on Zoom videos, I always have my video on, so I'm probably not walking around. But if I can just take a phone call rather than Zoom, I'm walking around my basement, I'm walking around my house. I just feel so much better, so much more energetic when I'm moving around. Like if I have to sit for a bunch of hours in a row doing Zoom calls, get a little bit tired, energy dips. So I love to move around. And if you can hit just a daily step count of it doesn't almost really even matter, 8, 10, 12K, something like that, you're going to be great. Just so many health benefits. So I would encourage people to do that.
That's a great, great tip. I have a treadmill on my standing desk, so I do it.
A lot of people do. I'm a big
Yeah,
fan of it. I don't have one myself just because I generally move around a lot
yeah,
anyways. Usually have
yeah.
a hard time hitting my step count, but that's
And it
okay.
depends on who you're on Zoom with. Some people can't tolerate the moving around.
Totally, totally, totally. It's like internal thing, cool.
Yeah,
I'm
but
probably not taking external calls with
no,
people.
no podcast recording while I'm walking,
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Wouldn't that be
yeah,
funny if like we started this up?
right? We're just like especially if
Hey
we're
man,
both doing it, we're just on a walk together.
your head's bobbing, like you
Yeah.
just yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
agreed.
we only have 2 left. Okay, what gives you optimism or hope about the future of health and wellness right now and fitness?
I mean, I think it's starting to do things that we never even thought was possible. If we want to further expand on that a little bit, even just like the relative kind of meteoric rise of GLPs, and I think it's just how much they've helped people. It's just amazing.
Mhm.
It used to be like, I think for the first time ever here over the last year or so, like obesity rates are coming back down. Like that's, I mean, I can't think of almost anything better for the general overall health and well-being of the entire sort of world population. I'm a big fan of them, but they're cool. Yeah, I'm sure AI will only help expedite that process even more in the future.
So true. So, so true. So, where can people go to learn about RP strength?
Yeah, so check out YouTube. So RP Strength or Renaissance Periodization. Renaissance Periodization was our original name.
Okay.
That's why it's still there on YouTube. rpstrength.com is our website. And again, you can find all this stuff through the website as well. That's a really good spot. Or RP Strength on Instagram. Those are probably the three main places I'd say to start
Okay,
with.
cool.
Lots of good content out there.
Yeah. We'll include that in the show notes. Nick, this was a great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to break all of this down and share both what's worked and what you've learned along the way. Really cool app that you have, and it sounds like it can help a lot of people really in a lot of ways. So excited to see that continue to grow. And for everyone listening, please be sure to check out RP Strength if you're serious about training, nutrition, and performance. We will have that in the show notes. And as always, innovation creates possibility, implementation turns it into growth. We'll see you next time.